The Hunt second edition has just wrapped up, so I thought it would be a good time to go through all of the normal and mega token challenges and rank them from worst to best. Keep in mind that this is my personal opinion and it's totally fine for you to disagree with me, just be respectful about it. Let me know how you would rank the challenges in the comments below. Anyway, enough yapping, let's get started. In very last, we have Pet Simulator 99 Mega Token. I absolutely despise the Pet Simulator games. I think they are the worst games I've ever played on Roblox. So it's safe to say that I did not have high expectations for their challenge in the Hunt, but I was still surprised because they ended up being worse than I expected. The Mega Token started off in a really dull way by having you do this really boring raid where you click on coins, wait for your pets to eat the coins, and then go to the next room. Then there was a puzzle where you had to spell out Gunter, and this was the only decent part of this challenge. But the most aggravating thing about this Mega Token challenge was the part where you had to click on all the clovers. You had to click on every single one in the room with the houses and the room prior, and it was really aggravating because there was no way for you to track which ones you had clicked on or not, and there was no indicator on your mouse that even showed you could click on the clovers to begin with. So yeah, I did not enjoy this challenge at all, and I think it was horrible. Following that up, we have the normal token challenge from Pet Simulator. It's not as bad because it doesn't have a stupid clover puzzle, but it was still really boring and I hated every second I had to spend in this dumpster fire. You have to go through this raid, which suggested to me that you were going against some enemies and maybe underneath a time limit, which would add some fun and intensity to this challenge. But no, you just zoom on through, you click on coins, have your pets eat the coins, and then go to the next room and repeat that for about 10 minutes. So yeah, I found it to be super dull and I did not find much enjoyment from this challenge. Up next, we have the normal token badge from Clip It. The devs really wanted to farm those premium payouts, I guess, because this was the most blatant form of time wasting that I have ever seen. You just sit there and watch 20 TikToks, which I did not find enjoyable at all. Most of the ones I watched were super cringe and way too long, and I had just wanted to get done with this challenge and earn the token. You then had to make a couple TikToks of your own, which thankfully did not require much effort, but I did wish that this game had a more interesting and unique challenge to the event, and that was my main issue with this quest. It was really dull and did not bring anything new or interesting. After that, we have Car Crushers 2. My main issue with this one is just that it was long and dull to do. The game tells me that the best way to earn credits is by doing the derbies, but that took quite a while for me to complete. You also have to install an air control thruster on a vehicle of race class C, but I misread that and put it on a vehicle that was not correct, and I think they should have made the race class thing a bit more obvious, though I still have a part to play in that since I did not read it closely enough. Then you had to drive an excruciatingly long distance to the volcano, which I found to be really boring. So this challenge was not the worst thing ever, but it was pretty much just play the game, and I did not find this game to be very fun, so I did not enjoy this token quest. After that, we have the It Girl main token. This one also took quite a while for me to complete, which I did not really enjoy because I just wanted to get the token and get out of there. And the quest to get this token was pretty much just play the game normally. Would have been cool if they had an event-themed costume contest or something to actually force players to put in a little bit of effort. I actually don't hate these kinds of games. I've had fun playing Dress to Impress with some friends before, but I just did not enjoy this one. I didn't think the event was integrated that well. After that, we have the normal token from Eat the World. This game commits one of the biggest sins on Roblox events, which is having your game be pay to win. Here, you could have just bought a bunch of money and made yourself bigger with no grind. I also did not find this quest to be very interesting either, and there were also some annoying players who were just throwing stuff at other people and killing them, which made it much harder to complete this quest, though that is more my fault since I did not know that private servers were free and I could just avoid that. Speaking of which, I do really appreciate that the devs did that, and I definitely give them props for that. But otherwise, I did not enjoy this quest very much. After that, we have Fish. This challenge was not hard by any means, thankfully, but it was not very fun either. It was another mission where you basically just play the game. You have to catch 10 fish, get a couple loot boxes, and then talk to the NPC. I've never been able to get into Fish. I just don't find it very fun. The nature of the game where you have to click your fishing rod a bunch of times gets repetitive very quickly, and I just don't find much enjoyment in that. So I did not enjoy this this quest either. Then we have Infection Gunfight Main Token. This is yet another game where you basically get the token by playing the game normally. You don't really have a unique challenge to do here or a unique map unlike other first-person shooter games. I like these games, so I had a little bit more fun here, but I do wish that the devs were a bit more creative with the main token challenge. Also, I don't know why the zombies are so absurdly strong. Also, it's weird and kind of funny as well that once you reach a certain point in the round, some Sigma music starts playing in the background. Is this the game telling you to lock in or something? I don't know. I don't really get it. I didn't have the worst time in this game, which is why I'm ranking it this high, but I also can't say it's a great challenge. Following that, we have Natural Disaster Survival Normal Token. I like this game, so I had fun playing through the disasters, but I cannot say that this was a good token challenge though. This is yet another challenge that is just play the game normally. Here you had to just survive 3 rounds, which is not that hard once you figure out how this game works. It would have been cool if they used this event to make a brand new map and maybe reward the token from that map or something, but this main challenge just was not that interesting to me. Following that, we have the Car Crushers 2 Mega Token. This is definitely one of my least favorite Mega Token challenges just because it was not very fun to do either. There was not really much in terms of figuring out things to do. You just had to run back and forth between the OG lobby and the main lobby, and then you had to pretty much just play the game normally by driving your car into several destruction facilities. Not the worst thing ever, and I definitely preferred this over the main token challenge in this game, but still not something I would consider to be good. Up next is Blade League. I've never really played these blade ball kinds of games, so it was fun to check this one out, and I enjoyed the unique spin it took on the genre by having it basically be soccer and blade ball fused together. So I did have fun doing this, even though it was pretty much another challenge where you just play the game normally. So yeah, not a great challenge at all, but I had a little bit of fun with this one. After that is Hell's Kitchen, which is a game I've actually played a little bit of before this event. I find it pretty funny that we got a Gordon Ramsay event on Roblox before GTA 6, and I hope eventually the devs release the version of the game where Gordon Ramsay is swearing every 5 seconds. The event itself was also not great because it didn't really bring anything too unique, but there was still a little enjoyment for me to find with this one. Kicking off the big 38, we have the Infection Gunfight Mega Token, which was something that really got a lot of members of the community angry. I played it after it got nerfed, so I did not have nearly the amount of frustrations as many other people did have with it. When I played it, you only needed to spell out Mega instead of Mega Hunt, though I definitely see how aggravating Mega Hunt was for people. When it was just down to Mega, I found it to be a lot more enjoyable. Though, again, it was not really the most interesting challenge because you're just basically shooting zombies. You're not really doing anything super unique for this token. So it's definitely one of the lesser constructed challenges in this event. But I did not have a horrible time with it. Following that up, we have Rivals, which is also a game I've played a little bit of before this event. It also did not have a great normal token challenge, but I do like Rivals, and it was fun to check this one out. Up next, we have the Basketball Legends normal token. Now, this was one that I actually skipped completely, and I was going to do it before I record this video, but I did not have time. So you're just gonna have to watch this footage from Connor 3D. I enjoy the mechanics of this game, and this challenge does not look overly difficult. You just have to find 3 decent people and defeat Drake in a basketball match. I like the mechanics of this game, so I would definitely have enjoyed the challenge this much when I was playing it, though it's not anything too interesting or unique when it comes to an event integration. Up next, we have the Drive World Mega Token. This one was not too interesting. You just had to drive a soccer ball into a certain area, and then you had to drive around, find 4 UFOs, and then put in the symbols on a keypad. But hey, at least it was a new challenge made for this event, and I had a little fun doing it. Though I think it went on a bit too long, and the UFOs were spread a bit too far from one another, and it was also a bit tedious since you had to write down all of the symbols or record it. Up next is the It Girl Mega Token. Finding the batteries was a little annoying, and I think they should have been made a little bit bigger, but it wasn't the worst thing in the world. Then there was a pretty standard part in the lab where you just had to find the parts for a password. I didn't like that they forced you to find all the pieces of paper and you couldn't just brute force it at the end. And then lastly, you have to do a rather mediocre boss fight. There really wasn't much of interest here. You had to do a few little puzzles, I guess, but they were not that interesting to me either. Overall, I found this to be a rather mediocre mega token challenge, but it wasn't terrible, and I didn't absolutely hate doing this one. It just didn't interest me that much. Following that up, we have the normal token from Metro Life. This one was pretty short and sweet. I liked that it didn't overly draw things out, and it kind of pointed you where to go. I just found this to be pretty mediocre though. There wasn't really anything that interesting about it. You just drove around, found a few things, and then you were done. Up next, we have Regretivator. Well, what do we have here? Another game where you just play the game normally to get the normal token. Still though, I never played Regretivator before, so I had a little fun doing this one because it was a new experience for me, and I enjoyed how wacky this game could get. I never really knew what to expect from these floors, so doing that for 7 matches was pretty fun. Following that, we have the mega token for Hell's Kitchen. This is one I feel could have actually benefited from being a little bit longer or a bit more well developed. There's a little bit of a story here with you fetching some recipes and making a dish for a food critic who then turns out to be the bad guy and tries to steal the recipes from you. It would have been nice if the food critic was someone you had to actually compete against in a challenge, or maybe it could have been a boss battle, and it wouldn't be too out of place in my opinion because you already had to do stuff that seems uncharacteristic for a food game, like doing these obbies. But no, once you find out this plot twist, then the guy, he just pretty much leaves and you get the token and that's it, which felt pretty underwhelming. So I kind of liked what they were going for, but I think it could have been more fleshed out. Up next is the Regretivator Mega Token Badge. I had some fun doing this one because, like I mentioned earlier, Regretivator was new to me and I enjoyed how wacky and unpredictable it was. But this Mega Token quest was not anything too interesting to me. You just played the game for 4 rounds and then you searched for a few floppy disks. Unlocking the floppy disks and doing those puzzles was the most interesting part of this challenge, but otherwise it was not anything too great in my opinion. Up next is the Tower Defense Simulator Mega Token. I do like this game a lot, and as you will see later in the video, I did really enjoy their normal token, but I did not like the Mega Token that much because it just wasn't very interesting or unique. It was the exact same map as the normal token, just with a little bit more difficulty. I enjoyed doing it because I like this game and I love the vibe, especially with the music, but I can't say that this was a very good Mega Challenge. Up next is the Clip It Mega Token Challenge. This was nice and easy. I actually appreciated this one a lot. The clues were pretty fun without being super difficult to decipher, and it was not too hard to find the cameras. So it was short but sweet in my opinion. However, it was not as fleshed out as some of the other challenges we're going to cover, which is why I'm ranking it pretty low here. Following that, we have the Natural Disaster Survival Mega Token. This was also a fun little puzzle, and I thought the room with the mini scale versions of the disasters was actually super cute. I like how rewarding this challenge was to people who have played this game for quite a while and recognize the disasters pretty much instantly. Though I do have to say, if you were not very familiar with this game, it would probably be more difficult to figure out. Also, this challenge is unfortunately rather pay to win, since if you have the selection game pass, you could just look for the maps you need and pick them. That's the big thing that really holds this challenge back, but I personally still enjoyed it. After that, we have the Blade League Mega Token. The first part of this Mega Token quest was not super interesting. You basically just had to play the game 4 separate times and look for some numbers on the side. Not really my thing. I didn't enjoy that part that much, but what I did like was the boss battle. It was pretty fun to battle this big ogre dude and try to get more goals than him, and it gave me enough of a challenge without being so overly difficult to the point of making this challenge tedious. Overall, a really solid Mega Token. Then we have the Bayside High School Mega Token. The first part of this challenge was pretty weird, and honestly props to whoever figured this out because some of these clues were really difficult to decipher. You then fart in a chair and then get transported to a special challenge. This one was basically a harder version of the Crossy Roads challenge that you had to do for the normal token, so it wasn't anything that interesting in my opinion, but I still had some fun with it. I definitely rate it higher if it was a more unique challenge though. After that, we have Drive World. Here, you basically just had to do a few obbies. It was a little bit annoying, but I appreciated the unique challenge of doing an obby in a vehicle. Once I got used to the obbies and the vehicle, it was not too difficult to complete. So yeah, I actually dug this one quite a bit. Following that up, we have the Rivals Mega Token. The first part of this Mega Token quest was not anything too great in my opinion. First, you had to find some targets in the target practice area that were aligned in an incorrect way. The problem is, since since there were so many of these targets in here, this was a little bit too tedious for my liking, and I felt it was very easy to miss a lot of these tokens. I had to leave and rejoin several times to get a new set of targets because a lot of times I looked everywhere and I just could not find the last target I needed to shoot, and my eyesight is pretty good. I can't imagine how difficult this would be for people who are a little more visually impaired. So I do wish they made these targets a little bit more distinctive. After that, you basically had to get 15 kills in 2v2 matches, which is pretty much just playing the game normally. I didn't find anything super interesting about this task. Lastly, you had to do a boss battle with a turret, and this was the part of the challenge that I most enjoyed. It was pretty fun without being super difficult. Overall, a decent mega challenge, but I do feel the first part was a bit too difficult. Then we had the Metro Life mega token. You do a few little tasks and then you just travel around the map and you have to find more colored number tokens. Yay! Definitely one of the less spectacular mega token challenges in my opinion. It just did not have that unique of a challenge, but I did not find it to be that boring. I had an enjoyable enough time with it. Following that up, we have the fish mega token. I got pretty frustrated with this one and I'll explain why in a moment, but looking past the rage, I can definitely appreciate how well this was made. You had to do a couple little puzzles, get past a maze, and then you had to do a puzzle with a singing Cthulhu head and some fish. Now, I like how this is executed, but I do have a major issue with it in that if you accidentally place a fish in the wrong compartment, you can't take the fish back out. This was so frustrating to me because I had basically spent 20 minutes already fishing up the 8 fish I needed and then deciphering which fish go in which spot, but one small mistake cost me all that time and I had to do this challenge all over again. I don't mind things being difficult, but stupid stuff like this is really frustrating. So I do think that is a pretty significant issue with this challenge, and also it is annoying that you have to constantly record the singing of the Cthulhu head, and if you're not streaming it or something, then it might be a little more difficult to do. But otherwise, I do think this was a very well made challenge. Kicking off the top 20, we have World Zero. I'm not a big fan of these dungeon games, but I did have some fun with this one. You just kept clicking pretty much the whole time, but it was interesting how some enemies needed you to actually think and use specific attacks in certain ways, and the dragon fight at the end was okay enough, but again, a bit too much clicking for my liking. Ironically, this challenge did not fully click with me, but I did appreciate the unique dungeon made for it. Following that, we have a Dusty Trip. I was actually very surprised at how much I enjoyed this one. Usually, I don't like Dusty Trip challenges because they just feel so long and tedious. I don't like the physics of this game very much. They just feel very weird, but this one was not as long or annoying to do as other challenges in the past, and the boss battles were decent enough, though I do find the 3-phase structure that all the bosses have to be rather annoying, especially since they're pretty much just the same pattern of attacks. In my opinion, if you're going to do multiple phases of the boss fights, then just put different attacks in different phases. Still though, I thought it was decent. Then we have the Basketball Legends Mega Token quest. The first part of this quest was really generic. You just had to go around and find numbers on colored parts, which is obviously not that interesting considering how many games in this event have this exact same challenge. I did like the way it forced you to get 3 shots in a row, and this kind of helped further familiarize you with how the game works and prepare you for the battle that's about to begin. And I did enjoy the battle with the bot, and I had to do a couple times before I could succeed. I enjoyed this one. It wasn't anything too spectacular, but I thought it did a good enough job. Following that up, we have Arsenal. I do appreciate that Arsenal always makes a unique map and challenge for these events whenever they're included, but I've pretty much always felt that the Arsenal event integrations always have an underwhelming ending, and the same was true here. You kind of just escape prison and then the challenge abruptly ends. I would have liked something a little bit more interesting. However, it was still fun to get through it and make sure to avoid getting killed by the enemies. And I definitely want to give huge props to the devs for making unique content for this and even drawing the characters themselves. Up next is the World Zero Mega Token. You have to go looking around for some gems and then you have to do a little puzzle. I enjoyed the puzzle, but it was yet again more colored numbers hidden around the room. Then you had to do a boss fight and I liked it. It was hard enough without being super difficult. And I like that this boss had some interesting and unique attacks, like the finishing move where if you don't hide behind this wall in 10 seconds, then you'll die immediately. This one gave me some enjoyment while I was doing it. Following that, we have Chained. Right off the bat, I think that they should have made more clear where the event challenge was. It was in this blue ball on the right, but I completely skipped over it because it was not labeled at all. A bunch of games like this are so overstimulating and have so many details around the map and on the UI that I just ignore a lot of them. So I did not piece together that that was where I needed to go for the hunt event, and my partner and I spent like 20 minutes on the main mountain before we realized we were doing it in the wrong area. But once we got there, I thought it was cool. But again, this is pretty dependent on how good your teammate is. I was with my friend and we were communicating on Discord, so we were pretty in sync and we were able to get through pretty smoothly. But if you had no one to do it with and you were just doing it with random people, I could definitely see how this could be a very frustrating challenge for you. Up next is the Chained Mega Token. I really liked the unique environment made for this, and the puzzles were challenging but not super difficult until we got to this button one, which was really annoying. Also, there was a part where you had to avoid a couple falling boulders that was really frustrating, and eventually I figured out I just had to stand by the edge to get around it. But still, I think that was a bit too tedious, and it was also annoying how once you died you had to wait a long time for the platform to come back. That just felt like it was drawing out time too much. And like the normal challenge, this one will be entirely dependent on how good you work with your partner. If you have a good partner like me, then this one will be more enjoyable, but if you have a bad partner who you just don't work well with, then this will be a huge pain in the butt to complete. Then we have the Dusty Trip Mega Token. I was expecting this to be hell, but surprisingly it was not that bad at all, and I actually liked it. First off, you had to put a portal together with some battery pieces. It was a fun little challenge, and once you figured out the rhythm of the batteries and how many beeps it would take until they would explode, then it really was not that difficult in my opinion. After getting transported through the portal, you end up in the future where you do a couple little boss battles. And usually, as I mentioned previously, I don't like Dusty Trip boss battles that much because they're very repetitive even though they have multiple phases. But here it was different, especially in the last one, because with the final phase of that boss battle, the boss just went all out and his attacks became much more intense. And I really appreciated that. I'm telling you bro, I really did not like Dusty Trip challenges in the past, but they were 2 for 2 in their challenges for this event. I'm honestly pretty surprised at how much I enjoyed a Dusty Trip this time around. Then we have the Untitled Boxing Game Challenge. I really enjoyed trying this game out and figuring out how the mechanics worked, and I enjoyed the boss battles. You could be strategic and try to time your moves right. You could block and then counter, or you could just keep spamming buttons, and after enough persistence, it would probably work out for you. I thought the bosses were also super well constructed in their design, their animation, and overall their presentation. I thought this was a pretty well crafted quest. Up next is the Eat the World Mega Challenge. Considering how much I disliked the Eat the World normal token, I was surprised at how much I enjoyed this one. You first had to find a hex-shaped button to click, and that was a bit annoying but not too difficult. Then you gave the Egg of Destruction to the big noob, and then you were transported to the Egg Hunt 2012 lobby. It was a really cool environment, and I really enjoyed the ensuing obstacle course where you had to evade the Egg of Destruction. It was challenging and kept me on my toes, but it was not anything super difficult. I had a really good time with this one. The first part with finding the button was a bit too annoying, but the rest of this challenge was pretty enjoyable. Kicking off the top 10, we have the normal token challenge from Untitled Tag Game. Now, I know I was hating on a bunch of these games for their challenges essentially being play the game normally, and let's be fair, that's exactly what this one is in Untitled Boxing Game as well. But like I said in the beginning, I'm ranking these mostly based on how much I enjoyed completing these challenges, and man, I really enjoyed doing this one because this game is an absolute blast to play. This is the type of game where I can just get in with a couple friends and have a great time. It was really fun just zipping around trying to tag people and avoid getting tagged. I guess this challenge showed me that these play the game normally challenges work best if you actually enjoy the game, since their main purpose is to get you hooked on the game and get you to come back. But frankly, I did not enjoy most of the games that had these kinds of challenges, and I would not come back for them. But for this one, I will. Following that is the Untitled Boxing Game Mega Token. I thought it was a pretty well-rounded challenge that I enjoyed pretty much the entire time. You first had to go into the void and do some obbies that were a bit difficult due to the fact that you could not properly see them, so it was really satisfying to finally get through them. I definitely see how these lava walls could be a huge pain in the butt for people who might be on mobile. I also enjoyed the hacking portions where it kind of tested your reaction time a little bit. Finally, I thought the boss battles here were also pretty rad. It was a really cool setting being in this purple void area, and I like that there were multiple thrown at you and you really had to do your best. Overall, a genuinely fun experience, and I might come back to this game later because I actually enjoyed playing these boxing matches. Then we have the Bayside High School Normal Token Challenge. This one was basically Crossy Road in Roblox, which is a really nostalgic experience and a really well done one as well. They perfectly captured the aesthetic and the challenge of these levels, though I do say they should have had the same camera effect that games like Crossy Road have when you're slowing down too long, because a lot of times I was standing in one spot too long but I didn't realize it, and then eventually I died and got sent back to the beginning, but that was not really communicated visually. Otherwise, I thought it was really cool and super well made. After that, we have the Arsenal Mega Token. The devs absolutely cooked with this challenge. It was so good. They made a really cool role-playing game challenge kind of thing where you basically took turns attacking your opponents, and you had to be really strategic with how you attacked and which opponents you attacked first. I always went for the healers first because they would heal up their side, and that would make them much more difficult to deal with in the long run. This game reminded me of TMNT Legends, which was another role-playing game I used to play quite a bit a few years ago, so I brought back a little bit of nostalgia actually. Let me know in the comments if you also played this game back in the day. Now, another thing I liked about this Arsenal challenge was the story. It wasn't anything Oscar worthy, but I still thought it was pretty well done, and it was cool how you kind of progressed with this character through the events of what was going on. You got to meet some cool side characters with the rabble rouser and the ninja, and I really enjoyed going around and talking to all the concerned citizens on the side and hearing what they each had to say. It was really satisfying having the whole team defeat the tank at the end. Again, it was not super difficult, but you had to be strategic with how you went at it, and if you had trouble fighting one tank, then it makes me wonder, how are these characters going to get out of the cliffhanger at the very end where they're surrounded by multiple of them? Definitely has me invested in seeing how the story continues from here. Maybe we'll get it in the Hunt 3rd edition. I will say I do think this quest went on a bit too long. It was definitely getting a bit repetitive and dull near the end. I think it could have been cut down by like 10 minutes. Otherwise, I really enjoyed it and I thought it was super well crafted. We'll transition from that to the next challenge, which was the SpongeBob Normal Token Challenge. When I first joined the game, I was not very excited for this. I don't really enjoy other tower defense games because they're not as well executed most of the time when it comes to the animations, the music, and the overall presentation as Tower Defense Simulator. I also had some trauma from the horrible experience with the SpongeBob Simulator from last year's Hunt event, which was basically just Pet Simulator, and you guys know how much I despise that game. So I also despise that challenge because it was pretty much just you running and clicking on coins until your pets ate them, and you were basically just doing that for 20 minutes. I was definitely expecting this SpongeBob Tower Defense to be on a similar level to the Skibidi Tower Defense game, but the SpongeBob one actually blew me away. It was kind of intense, and they did such a great job representing the SpongeBob characters in a Roblox format, and the overall challenge of this tower defense level was really fun. Full props to the devs for this, they really cooked with this one. Kicking off the top 5, we have Pressure. I have some familiarity with Doors, but I have not really played it that much, so this game was pretty much just Doors but underwater. It did take a bit of time for me to get used to the mechanics of this game, and that monster that keeps following you around is definitely a little bit annoying, but it was so rewarding once I finally figured out how to do it, and I fully appreciated how well executed this challenge was. The map is so well designed, and overall I had a great time doing this one. Speaking of Pressure, we have the Pressure Mega Token Challenge. I liked how this one kind of acted as a bonus or a DLC to the normal token challenge, but it was unique enough in its own way to where I didn't feel I was basically doing the normal token challenge again. You had to go through and find some radios. Luckily I was doing it with a friend, but it could definitely be very annoying if you're doing it solo. And then you had to do a pretty intense part where you had to find 30 tokens before you suffocated and died. all while still looking out for the monsters. This was definitely a challenge for sure, and it was frustrating at first, but I really appreciate how well it was done, and I appreciate how satisfying it was to finally complete this. Overall, I thought Pressure did a great job with both of their challenges. Keeping up with the underwater theme that we've established for the past 3 entries, we now have the SpongeBob Simulator Mega Token. You had to do a little scavenger hunt, which I thought was cool, and then you had to do another tower defense level on the Flying Dutchman. I like that this one was different enough. It was a new map, different enemies, and you had to be more strategic because you were by yourself and you couldn't do it with other people. Again, I'm super impressed with how well done the SpongeBob challenges were. In the penultimate spot, we have the Tower Defense Simulator Normal Token. Man, Tower Defense Simulator just cooks every time. Like I said before, I love the vibe of the Tower Defense Simulator levels. I'm so glad they brought back the banger music from the Tower Defense Simulator mission from the Hunt First Edition. Overall, I had a real good time doing this one. And even though Tower Defense Simulator tends to run on the longer side when it comes to event challenges, this one didn't feel that long and I had a lot of fun doing it. But my favorite challenge in the entire Mega Edition event was the Untitled Tag Game Mega Token Challenge. This challenge was absolute cinema. It was beautifully crafted. After finding the portal and getting transported to the event round, you're presented with pretty much non-stop peak. The visuals are absolutely amazing and the gameplay was so much fun. Sneaking past the guards and doing the puzzles in the middle was really enjoyable and gave me a good enough challenge without being super annoying. And the final clash over the Mega Token and the chase at the end was so cool. This game really shows what many Roblox games can do in terms of presentation and storytelling, and I really want to see more content like this in the future. I hope this sets a new standard for developers in future Roblox events. This is the type of stuff you should be producing for your challenges. I loved this one. It was really fun to do, and it got me interested in playing the game even more, which is why I think it is the best challenge out of this entire event. But that's going to wrap up my discussion of the 50 challenges in the Hunt Mega Edition. What do you think? Which challenges were your favorites and least favorites? Comment all your thoughts down below. Let me know if you want to see more videos that aren't just jailbreak related in the future. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Join my Discord server and Roblox group link to the description below, and have a great rest of your day or night. Bye.